Welcome to another deep dive.
Oh, sounds exciting.
This time, we're getting into fine art.
Okay, love that.
But not just any art. We're focusing on the kind that's, well, museum-worthy.
Wow, museum quality.
Exactly. We're going to be looking at a lecture by E.J. Gold.
Okay.
He's an art expert who had some pretty fascinating advice.
Oh, yeah.
He basically says, think like you're buying for a museum.
Hmm.
So we'll be diving into what makes a piece so special it belongs in a museum.
That sounds really interesting.
Yeah, it should be fun. So what stood out to you about Gold's perspective?
Well, one of the first things that really hit me was his, obvious passion for art.
Oh, for sure.
But also, his belief in art as a legacy.
I see.
Something that can last through generations.
Okay.
He's a big proponent of, buying these high-quality pieces.
Right.
But not just for yourself.
Not just to keep in your living room, yeah.
Yeah, but with the goal of eventually donating them to museums.
Oh, that's interesting.
Kind of buying art on the public's behalf, so to speak.
So it's about sharing that art with everyone, not keeping it for yourself.
Exactly. And he does touch on potential tax benefits.
Sure, that makes sense.
But, he really emphasizes that the main reason, the real motivation is the impact it can have.
On society and culture.
Exactly. Enriching people's lives.
I love that. So it's about more than just owning something beautiful.
For sure.
It's about contributing to something bigger than yourself.
Absolutely.
But let's get down to brass tacks here.
Okay, yeah.
What kind of art does he actually recommend?
Well, he uses a lot of examples in his lecture.
Okay, great.
For example, he talks about a lithograph by Jasper Johns.
Okay, Jasper Johns. I've heard the name.
Yeah, he's pretty well known.
So what's special about this particular piece?
This one's from his 0 through 9 series.
Okay.
And it's all about the details, really.
All right, break it down for me.
So this lithograph is pencil signed and numbered, meaning it's a limited edition.
Oh, okay. So not just a poster you could buy anywhere.
No, not at all. It even appeared in a Sotheby's auction back in 1987.
Wow, so it has a history.
Yeah, bit of provenance.
Okay, this is where the research comes in, right?
Exactly. You have to do your homework.
How do you even begin to figure out what something like that is worth?
Well, that's where expertise and, good connections come in.
Yeah, sounds like you need to know the right people.
It helps. Gold suggests this lithograph could be worth thousands.
Thousands, wow.
Maybe even tens of thousands.
Okay, it's starting to sound serious now.
And he mentions that with these rare pieces, things can get competitive.
You mean like bidding wars?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I guess that's how those high prices come about.
Exactly. It's a whole different ballgame. He even jokes this kind of piece belongs in Sotheby's, not on eBay.
Right. It's not your average online auction.
No kidding. Now, how about a piece with a completely different feel?
Sounds good, yeah.
Let's talk about Paul Gauguin.
Oh, all right, Gauguin.
This one's interesting because it's his only etching.
His only etching?
Yeah. Apparently Gauguin really hated the etching process.
I guess even great artists have their preferences.
I know, right?
So what's this piece called?
It's called La Femme aux Figues.
Okay. La Femme aux Figues.
And actually, Gold goes into some technical stuff here.
Oh, this is where it gets a bit more complicated.
It is. He talks about how to tell the difference between states of the print.
Okay, what does that mean? Different states?
So basically, different stages in the printing process.
I see.
And each state can have a different value.
So you need to be able to tell them apart.
Right. And there are clues, the size can vary slightly.
Okay.
The type of cross-hatching, even the color of the ink.
Wow, so many details.
It's a lot, yeah.
Sounds like you really need to know what you're looking for.
You do. Gold even tells this story about Madame de Lattre.
Who's that?
She was the printer's widow.
Oh, okay.
And she made a limited run of prints from the original plate after Gauguin died.
Interesting.
So that adds another layer to the whole thing.
Wow, so the story behind the print is almost as important as the print itself.
Definitely.
And I'm guessing those later prints aren't as valuable.
Right, they would be considerably less so.
Makes sense. So we've talked about rarity and the details of the printmaking.
Mm-hmm.
What else affects a piece's value?
Well, speaking of history, Gold uses a piece by Guillaumin to talk about provenance.
Okay, provenance. That basically means where a piece has been, right?
Exactly. It's the history of ownership.
So who owned it before can change its value.
It can drastically affect the value, yeah.
Interesting. So what about this Guillaumin piece?
Well, this one's called Vieux Prise de Sardam.
Vieux Prise de Sardam?
Yeah. And it's an illustration from this 1906 edition of a book about Impressionist painters.
Okay, so this is a specific print from a specific book.
Right, and Gold points out that this early edition, with its style,
yeah,
it's significant
But how does all that translate into actual dollars?
Okay, well, Gold says a comparable piece might cost around $11,000 to replace.
$11,000.
Yeah. But this particular piece is priced at $5,850.
Wait, so it's way cheaper.
That's where the provenance comes in.
Okay.
This piece was in a big museum exhibition.
Oh, wow.
And it was previously owned by this art expert, Theodore Donson.
So it's got a, pedigree.
Exactly, and that adds value.
So you're kind of paying for that story, that connection to the past.
Exactly, you're paying a premium for that unique history.
It's like owning a piece of art history.
It is, yeah.
Right, this is all fascinating stuff. I'm really starting to see art in a new light.
Me too.
I'm eager to hear more. What else did Gold talk about?
Well, he dives into some Renoir etchings that are really interesting.
Oh, Renoir. Let's hear about those.
Yeah, so first up, he talks about this etching called Sur la plage à Berneval.
Okay, Sur la plage of Berneval.
Got it. And he points out this interesting detail. The earliest prints, they actually have a bather in them.
A bather, like someone swimming.
Yeah, exactly. And in later versions, that bather's gone.
Huh. So the image itself actually changes.
Yeah. And of course, the early ones with the bather are worth more.
Oh, I see. So it's not just about the addition, it's about these tiny details within an addition.
Totally. He also mentions the line work, the dry point and the burr,
I'm not super familiar with printmaking terms, but
Yeah.
I'm getting the idea that there are a lot of subtle differences.
Yeah, it's pretty intricate. Then he goes on to Femme nous assess.
Femme nous assess, okay.
And this one, get this, was in the first edition of that book about Impressionists.
Same book as the Guillemets.
The very same. Again, that early printing makes a big difference.
Got it. Early editions, unique details. Starting to see the pattern here.
Definitely. Then the last Renoir etching he mentions is Bennu's Debout à mi-jambes.
Wow. These names are a mouthful.
Haha, yeah.
Yeah.
But this one's even more special because of, the condition.
Condition, like if it's damaged or something.
Yeah. No, not damaged, but more like signs of it being a really early print.
Oh, okay.
Fresh dry point, heavy burr, the edges are inky, and the margins are uncut.
So all those things mean it's an early print.
Yep, and a valuable one. Apparently it's from the 1910 edition.
It's amazing how much you can tell about a print just by looking at it closely.
It is, yeah. You really start to notice things you might have missed before.
And that's kind of Gold's point, right? He's teaching us what to look for.
Absolutely. And he makes another good point that I think might resonate with you.
Oh, what's that?
He talks about how collecting works on paper, especially prints like these,
Yeah.
it can actually be a more affordable way to get into fine art.
Oh, that's good to hear. I always thought collecting art was, for the super rich.
It can be, but not always. Especially if you focus on prints, limited edition ones.
I see. Makes it less intimidating,
Right. You don't need millions to own something beautiful and historic.
Exactly. Now, Gold saved what he calls the most amazing piece for last.
Oh, yeah, I remember this one.
A unique Renoir etching. And he even says it might be the only one of its kind.
Pretty bold claim.
It's called Claude Renoir de Troyes Quartz Adroit. What makes this one so special?
Well, for starters, it's a soft ground etching.
Okay, I don't know that term.
So it's a different technique that creates a softer line, more texture.
Oh, I see.
And it's on this special paper, green tinted Holland paper with a watermark.
Fancy.
Right. It's also pencil numbered 9 out of 100. And importantly, it's a lifetime impression.
Meaning it was printed while Renoir was still alive.
That's right. Not a posthumous print or anything. And this is where it gets really unique.
Okay, I'm hooked. Tell me more.
Another print from this edition, maybe the only other one on this specific paper,
Uh-huh.
was reportedly lost in Dresden, during World War II.
Oh, wow. So it's a survivor.
It is, yeah. It made it through all that history.
That adds a whole new layer of meaning, doesn't it?
Totally. And Gold, of course, being a storyteller.
He loves a good story.
He dives into the history of this etching. It started as a pencil sketch.
Okay.
Then a few proofs were made when Renoir was alive. And then the full edition of the 100 prints, which this one is from, was acquired by this French art dealer, Sagot.
So it's traveled quite a bit.
It has, yeah. Decades and continents.
This really embodies the idea of art as a legacy.
It does, yeah. And makes you think about what Gold might do with it.
You mean, would he ever sell it?
Maybe, maybe not. He does mention donating it to a museum.
Oh, wow, that would be amazing.
Right. He even talks about how it could generate publicity, for the museum and for him.
Makes sense. But it's clear this piece means a lot to them.
It definitely does. It's more than just an image. It's a piece of history.
And speaking of Gold's approach to collecting, Anything else stand out to you?
What really struck me was his overall strategy, actually.
What do you mean?
He calls these high-value pieces his million-dollar loss leaders.
Loss leaders. But we're talking about Renoirs. How are those loss leaders?
It's more about his mindset. He doesn't necessarily aim to sell these pieces.
Oh, okay.
He uses them to attract attention, build credibility for his auctions.
I see. So it's more about establishing himself as an expert.
Yeah. Someone with a really discerning eye, you know.
So people trust his judgment.
Exactly. And by showcasing these amazing pieces, he draws people in, creates a buzz.
Like it's an event, not just a sale.
Exactly. And ultimately, it expands people's appreciation for art.
Makes them think about art in a different way.
It's like, come for the rare Renoir, stay for the whole art experience.
I love that. So it's about education as much as it is about, buying and selling.
Totally. And that brings us to another key thing he emphasizes, storytelling.
Oh, yeah. He's a great storyteller.
He gets that people connect with narratives.
Right. It's not just about the object. It's about the story.
Exactly. He uses anecdotes, historical context to bring the art to life.
Make it more memorable.
For sure. He even mentions wanting that P.T. Barnum appeal, you know?
Like a sense of wonder.
Yeah. Find those pieces that capture people's imaginations.
He wants to create an experience.
Absolutely. It's not just educational, it's entertaining too.
Now, that idea of provenance really resonated with me.
Yeah, me too. It's so fascinating how the history of ownership can change a piece's value so much.
It's like each artwork has its own biography.
That's a great way to put it. And for someone like Gold, who's clearly into art history, that provenance is probably as important as how the piece looks.
It adds a whole other dimension.
It does, yeah. Makes you realize these pieces have lived lives of their own.
Passed through different hands, witnessed different eras.
Exactly. And it ties into Gold's idea of art as a legacy, too.
You mean donating to museums?
Yeah. It's like he's a caretaker for these pieces, making sure they end up somewhere they can be enjoyed by everyone.
That's a beautiful way to think about it.
It is, yeah. He's not just thinking about himself, he's thinking about the bigger picture.
Sharing the beauty of art with the world.
It's really inspiring. Makes you think about your own relationship with art.
It does. What role does it play in your life? What kind of legacy do you want to leave behind?
Big questions. But of all the pieces Gold talked about, which one do you think would be the most impactful as a museum donation?
That's a tough one.
Yeah.
But I think that unique Renoir etching, Claude Renoir, Detroit Quartz Adroit.
Oh, yeah. That's a good one.
It's so rare, maybe even one of a kind. And it gives us a glimpse into Renoir's personal life.
With the depiction of his son, yeah.
That adds a whole other layer. And the fact that it's a lifetime impression, not a copy.
Makes it even more special, a true testament to Renoir's skill.
And imagine the stories a museum could tell about it.
Oh, yeah. So much to unpack there. The history of its creation, the different owners.
Its survival during the war. And then the donation itself.
It would be a captivating story. Inspire people to learn more about Renoir, about Impressionism.
About the power of art. Now, Gold mentioned that collecting works on paper, like etchings and lithographs, it's a more accessible way to enjoy fine art. What are your thoughts on that?
I completely agree. It's a great way to start collecting.
And there's something special about prints,
Totally. You can really see the artist's hand in them. Each line, each texture.
It's like you're closer to the creative process.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's remarkable how Gold walks us through those details.
Yeah, he's a great teacher.
He makes you appreciate things you might not have noticed before.
And that's what I love about this whole deep dive.
Me too.
It's not just about getting information. It's about feeling inspired.
Energized by the world of art.
Exactly. And now, as we wrap up, I want to bring us back to something Gold said that stuck with me.
Okay, what's that?
He talked about using these high-value pieces, his million-dollar loss leaders.
Right.
Not just to make a profit, but to draw people in, educate them about art.
What a brilliant strategy.
It is. He's using these rare pieces to spark curiosity.
Make the art world less intimidating, you know?
Exactly. It's like, come for the spectacle, stay for the knowledge.
I love that. And it's clear he's so passionate about sharing that knowledge.
Yeah, his enthusiasm is contagious.
Absolutely. Makes you want to explore along with him.
And that brings us back to the heart of it all, storytelling.
Always a good story with E.J. Gold.
He doesn't just give us facts, he weaves these narratives.
Brings the art to life.
Makes it more meaningful.
And he has a knack for finding those stories. Remember, he wants that P.T. Barnum appeal.
Find those pieces that capture the imagination.
Exactly. He gets that people are drawn to the unusual, the extraordinary.
And he uses that to his advantage. Draws people in,
It's a really clever approach.
A combination of like scholarship and showmanship.
And genuine passion.
Oh, for sure. That's what makes it so effective.
Both in terms of selling art and educating people.
Now, do you think this approach is unique to gold?
That's a good question. I think some aspects of it are universal, you know?
Like the storytelling, the passion.
Yeah. Anyone who's really into art wants to share that passion, connect with people.
Make art accessible.
Right. But there's something about Gold's personality.
His charisma, that excitement.
It's infectious. Makes his approach really stand out.
And that's what makes this deep dive so rewarding.
Agreed.
It's not just about information. It's about inspiration.
Reminding us that art is alive, that it's always evolving.
And now as we wrap up our exploration of Gold's lecture.
I think it's time for a little challenge for our listeners.
Yeah. We've learned so much about what makes art valuable.
About provenance, about rarity.
About the power of storytelling.
The idea of art as a legacy.
So here's the question. What kind of art would you be most interested in collecting?
And why? Think about it.
Yeah, what speaks to you?
What kind of art, really grabs your attention?
What kind of story do you want to bring into your home?
Maybe you're drawn to a specific artist or like a whole art movement.
It could be anything, landscapes or portraits or...
Abstract art.
Right, exactly. Whatever speaks to you.
And don't forget about the history. Some people love pieces from a specific time period,
Like a connection to the past.
Exactly. Or maybe you're interested in the techniques.
Like how the art was actually made.
Right. We learned about all those different printmaking methods.
It's fascinating stuff.
It is. And understanding the process can make you appreciate the art even more.
For sure. But in the end, it really comes down to what you enjoy.
What brings you joy?
It could be a piece that just makes you happy when you look at it.
Or maybe something that makes you think, starts a conversation.
Whatever it is, we encourage you to approach art collecting with that same curiosity.
That same passion that E.J. Gold has.
He's a great example.
He is. And remember, it's a journey.
There's always something new to learn.
Always something new to discover.
And hey, maybe someday one of your pieces will end up in a museum.
Wouldn't that be amazing?
What a legacy.
A real contribution to the world of art.
It is. And on that note, we'll wrap up this deep dive.
Thanks for joining us.
We hope you enjoyed exploring the world of fine art with us.
And that you're inspired to keep learning, keep looking, and maybe even start your own art collection.
Until next time.